Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Britain's biggest defence contractor, BAE Systems, says it's cutting almost 2,000 jobs. The firm, which makes the Eurofighter Typhoon, is facing a drop in demand. The majority of proposed redundancies are at the company's two sites in Lancashire. Around 750 jobs could be lost at the plants in Wharton and Samlesbury. Over 1,000 job losses are also proposed at other sites across the UK. The decision has raised questions about the government's commitment to air defence production in the UK. The Unite Union has vowed to fight the redundancies. Dan Johnson has more from Lancashire.
Another typhoon takes to the skies, but orders for this plane are running short, so the workers who build it now face uncertainty. Job cuts had been rumoured, but the numbers announced today were worse than expected.
They've made it pretty clear that there had to be a rebalancing of the manpower unless there was a significant number of orders came in.
Kind of expecting it, obviously. News know before we did, so it's just one of them.
In this area, BAE accounts for 1 in 4 manufacturing jobs, but there are warnings the impact could be much broader.
The government's got to decide about what sovereign capabilities it wants, and I'm sure that most taxpayers will say that they would hope that our airspace is defended by planes produced in this country and not, for example, planes that we bought off the shelf from the Americans.
The Eurofighter's getting old. It was designed in a different era. Parts are made across Europe, but assembled in Lancashire, where the new F-35 is also partly built. International competition's making business tough, but BAE hopes to secure new orders from Qatar and Saudi Arabia.
There's still a lot of people here. We've got a great future and we've got orders going forward that we will secure.
Why are those orders not in place already?
So it's really about timing. It is a difficult market. You can't make customers buy when you want them to buy. You've got to respond to them.
Today's announcement doesn't just affect the Northwest. More than 300 maritime jobs will be lost in Portsmouth. Another 400 aircraft workers will be made redundant in East Yorkshire.
BAE is a major employer, and these job cuts will have an impact in places like this. Local companies in the supply chain could also be hit. But there are bigger questions too about the future for sites like this and the UK's ability to produce defence equipment.
I think this is damaging for the United Kingdom's industrial capability. Exports are key to the future of UK with Brexit, etc. Aerospace is the #1 export, and what we're doing is diminishing that capability.
In the Commons, Labour, which has opposed sales to Saudi Arabia, called for more government support.
BAE point to uncertainty in future orders as a reason behind the job cuts. And we know that the government has pursued a stop-start approach, which has not given the industry the long-term stability that it desperately needs.
Ministers stressed this wasn't down to government spending decisions.
It's a result of internal restructuring and a drive to transform its businesses so it can continue to be one of our most efficient and effective companies generating export orders across the world.
New orders are needed for more of these to take off from here. This plane carries with it the job prospects of thousands of highly skilled workers now facing uncertainty. Dan Johnson, BBC News, Wharton in Lancashire.
Well, our business editor Simon Jack is outside the Ministry of Defence for us now. So Simon, what does this tell us about the UK government's commitment to the defence industry?
Well, I think what it tells us about the defence industry, Fiona, is that it's competitive and it's very international. It's not just decisions made here at the Ministry of Defence, but in government offices all around the world. Those orders have been weak, and 18 months ago BAE Systems warned that if orders remained weak, then production cuts might need to be made. Now, these are worse than we were expecting, but of course that is exactly what happened. They want to cut their costs according to their order book. Now, some people will say that is very short-sighted. If you cut your workforce when times are lean, then when the good times roll again and you go out to try and find those skills, they are gone forever. Now, I know these are big numbers. 2,000 job losses is a great deal, but remember, that BAE Systems employs over 80,000 people worldwide. It employs 35,000 people in the UK. And the management have clearly taken the decision. New boss just came in July. The best way to secure the long-term future of a company which is so important to British manufacturing is to make it as efficient as possible. Hence today's announcement.
Simon of the MOD, thank you.
Almost 2,000 jobs are to be cut at the UK's biggest defence contractor, BAE Systems, in what's being described by unions as a bitter blow for manufacturing. The company, which is facing a lack of orders for its Typhoon jet, claims the restructuring will result in a sharper competitive edge. Labour says the move will mean a permanent loss of skills for the country. Our business editor Siobhan Kennedy has the story.
Testing times at Warton in Lancashire, as pilots put these Typhoons through their paces. At £65 million a pop, these jet fighters have been the mainstay of BAE's aviation business. But a lack of orders means staff here are bearing the brunt of job losses. At 10 a.m. this morning, they were called together and told 750 of them would have to go. Any reaction to today's news?
No, it's not a good day.
Not a good day. How are you feeling?
Well, we're ready for the next battle.
You've also got to think of the area round about as well that relies heavily, but you know, unfortunately it just seems a sign of the times.
You've kept your jobs?
I don't have a clue.
Any reaction to the news today?
No, not today.
Nothing? They've been building aeroplanes here for more than 40 years. It's what's made this part of Lancashire one of Britain's most successful manufacturing areas. Yet for every single job that's lost here, unions estimate 3 more jobs will be lost at businesses up and down the country that supply this facility. So what's bad for BAE is also bad for Britain. The most jobs are being lost from the Warton and Salisbury site, which makes the Typhoon and other fast jets. Hundreds more workers across 3 other aviation facilities will go, including 400 at Brough in East Yorkshire. But it's not just planes. 340 more staff will lose their jobs at Portsmouth Docks, while 180 are also being shed from the company's cyber division in Guildford and other locations. BAE said part of the problem was not having full sign-off on a contract to make 30 jets for Qatar, while a mooted, controversial deal to supply a fleet of Typhoons to Saudi Arabia is yet to materialise. And Theresa May and Liam Fox have made visits to the Gulf to shore up business deals there that will no doubt also come under scrutiny. A lack of clarity from the Ministry of Defence about a future fighter programme hasn't helped either, though the government today insisted that had no bearing.
BAE Systems has taken this decision as a result of effectively normal business practice. It's a result of internal restructuring and a drive to transform its businesses so it can continue to be one of our most efficient and effective companies, generating export orders across the world. This is not related to any UK defence spending decisions.
But this BAE employee and union rep said the government needed to act. In letting these high-skilled jobs walk out the door today, could the government have done more?
Certainly the government could have done more, but you know, now is the time when the government really needs to step up to the plate and make a decision. You know, we believe taxpayers will want the UK to be defended by aircraft built in the UK.
BAE said its decision had nothing to do with Brexit, yet for the government, losing 2,000 highly skilled jobs at this time can only be seen as a huge blow to Theresa May's vision to transform Britain into a thriving, independent trading nation outside of the EU. And this, as we also learnt today, that the UK's productivity is set to lag for years to come, dragging down economic growth just when we need it the most. David Cameron praised Warton's workforce in a visit on the referendum campaign trail. Today, Downing Street insisted the government would support the company. Aviation now added to the car industry in seeking help from ministers to avoid unwanted turbulence ahead. Siobhan Kennedy, Channel 4 News in Warton.
A slowdown in orders is being blamed by Britain's biggest defence manufacturing company, BAE Systems, for cutting its workforce by almost 2,000. Most of the jobs will go at 2 plants in Lancashire, where the Eurofighter Typhoon is assembled, but other plants around the country will be hit too. Labour called it devastating. Unions said it shows there is no government strategy or indeed investment for maintaining and advancing Britain's defence industry.
The Eurofighter Typhoon isn't just the first line of defence for the Royal Air Force, it's the aircraft whose design and construction is at the heart of the British defence industry. But now thousands of the workers who helped make it are set to lose their jobs. With slackening production at the factories in Lancashire where it's made, BAE workers say they're not surprised.
We need Typhoon orders and we haven't been getting them as quickly as we'd like to.
You know, if you're not selling the products, then you need to concentrate on areas that you can sell the products.
It's difficult for people here who are in the middle of their careers and suddenly they're being faced with possible redundancy.
The company employs 33,000 people across the UK, and the jobs it's shedding represent more than 1 in 20 of its workforce. The loss of the 2,000 jobs is in part down to the failure of new orders for the Eurofighter Typhoon to materialise, in particular a hoped-for deal with Qatar. The jet has faced tough competition, primarily from the American-made F-35 stealth fighter. But BAE Systems has also seen slowing demand for its Hawk trainer jet, along with the end of support work for the RAF's fleet of Tornadoes.
The workers employed here are amongst the most skilled aviation engineers anywhere in the world, but retaining those skills here in the UK will depend on BAE being involved in developing the next generation of fighter jet, and at present that is far from certain.
Things have changed. International markets are strong, the company's got a very good order book, but it has got gaps in that order book, and it has to account for that. It has to ensure that it's not got people actually not doing a job of work.
Current consignments of the Typhoon are set to be completed in 2019, and there are no firm orders in the company's books after that. Unions who represent workers here say the knock-on effect of job losses means the government needs to wake up.
For every person that we lose here, there's 6 other people in the supply chain, there's all the communities round about. The government can be a bit short-sighted, they don't realise the impact on communities, and for every pound they spend, how much they're getting back in tax revenue.
The company says it's hoping to avoid compulsory redundancies, but without fresh sales of this aircraft, the jobs will go. Damon Green, News at 10, Lancashire.